Hello and welcome to Duels of the Spellslingers. My name is Nemesis, bringing you some commentary today. I've been away for a while, thanks for bearing with me as I took some time away from the game. Still been playing a whole lot, but not been doing commentary for a little while. Thank you, huge thank you to antlr and to Obus Forum for all the slack you guys have been picking up. antlr, I know you do a ton of the work organizing and coordinating everything, so thank you for all that you're doing. And Obus Forum, great job with the commentary. I've enjoyed listening to it. So today I'm going to be bringing us some commentary for the game between Francis and Empedocles. Interesting matchup here. Francis, I'm not sure at the time that this video was initially recorded if Francis was sitting at the top of the mythic category of players, but I know that at the time of doing this recording, Francis is definitely sitting atop the entire ladder of players. So I've been managing to stay myself in the top 20 barely, and Francis hanging on to that number one spot. So well done, Francis. Interested to see what kind of decks Francis and Emp will be bringing us today. So let's get into it. This is a free-for-all tournament, so going back to the idea that there are no set predefined rules or spellslingers that people have to bring. So Francis is bringing us a Nissa deck. So Nissa, good mana ramp. Great start with the Channeler of Might, the Jorga Druid, and the Calonian Tusker. And then Emp with a board clear right off the bat, Day of Judgment in Emp's hand. So we're going to see some board clear later on in the game here. To start us off, Francis decides to hang on to that one mana gem, probably because the Channeler won't get pumped up to a 3/3. And then for 2 mana, throws out that 4/3 Tusker. In response, Emp is going to play the Prodigal that starts as a 2/3 and will get pumped up every time Blue plays a spell, so every time Jace plays one of his spells there. Francis throwing down the Druid pretty quickly, so that of course gives card draw whenever Nissa gains a mana gem, and Emp is going to send that back to hand. So nice job returning that right to Francis's hand. Francis is going to attack with that Tusker, deals 4 damage to the face as Emp decides to let it through, and then plays the 4/4 with Trample. So nice job having some pretty good board control right off the bat here. Unsummon from Emp, so throwing that spiked Baloth back into the hand. Francis, not deterred, is going to attack again with that Tusker, and this time Emp, having gotten that guy up to able to block without dying, does decide to block with the 2/5, so that becomes a 2/1, and then plays a remand to send that spiked guy back to Nissa's hand, and then Emp draws a card. Emp with a couple of Jade's Apprentices is going to throw one of those down, so it gains health for each one of the cards in hand. So with 6 cards in hand, that becomes a 3/7. Back over to Francis, who's going to play the Druid. Good for getting some card draw, but Emp charges the remand and sends that back into hand. And then Francis sitting on a 2/2, the Baby Mammoth, which can of course create a 7/7 with Trample later on in the game. Looks like Francis was going to attack, decides to hang back for now. The Channeler of Might both cost 1, and now they're going to pump up. So instead of being 2/2 creatures, those become 3/3 creatures, so I'm sure we're going to see those later. But decides to play the 4/4 with Trample. We see another Jace's Apprentice come out, so that again pumps up for 6, becomes a 3/7, and has Ward to start with. And then Emp playing the artifact that allows you to draw a spell, and so this spell is going to make that a 4/1. So it changes the power of an enemy's, or the health of an enemy's creature to 1. Francis, no charged traps in Emp's hand this time. So Francis plays the Druid, plays the extra mana and gets a card draw, so has the Primeval Titan in hand, and then decides to swing through with everything. Emp's gonna block, and then has those 3/7 creatures, so he's gonna block both of those, and both the 3/7s stay alive. One becomes a 3/5, one's a 3/3. And then with 2 mana left, Francis is going to charge up both those Channeler of Mights, and both come in as 3/3s. So a nice way to keep some board control there for Francis. Turn shifts back over to Emp, who's going to utilize that artifact again, and gets an Eldritch Tutor, I think it is. So that's a card cost 2 and gives you a mythic card in hand. So always a nice bet, but plays the add 7 life to your guy and gives you in hand a potential board clear later on in the game that does 10 damage to your opponent and every creature they control. So we'll see if that comes into play later on here. Francis is going to swing through with everything after playing that Titan. So the Titan gives mana, so Francis up to 10 mana at this point in the game. Amp content to block both of the 3/3s, leaves the 3/4 kicking around with potential card draw for Francis. So Francis leaves 2 mana on the table, and we see another second sun. So another 7 life to Amp, and then another one of those 10 damage to your opponent and all their creatures come into Amp's hand. So again, we'll see. I'm sure we'll probably see one of those before the end of this game here. Francis gonna opt for a little more card draw, plays the Sylvan Shrine and gets card draw, and then the Druid gives him the extra card as well as the mana. So Francis up to 13 mana after attacking with that Titan. Amp sitting with that 3/2 blocker is going to block the Titan, not willing to take the 8 damage to the face, so instead takes 3. And then plays the 5/5 and gets an empty mana gem in hand, does Francis. So that's another card draw. So consistent card draw, and then with the 2 mana remaining, plays the Baby Mammoth. Turn shifts back over to Amp, and it looks like they are going to play the shell game right away on that Titan. So the Primeval Titan becomes a 0/6 creature, so it takes care of that one. And then for just 2 mana, able to play the Breaching Serpent, so that's a 7/7 with sneak, so able to sneak past. Francis still getting incredible card draw with that Druid that's been there almost all game, and then plays that Primeval Titan again, another Primeval Titan, sorry, not the same one, and then gets even more card draw, and there we see Francis sitting on a potential board clear later on with the Lava Wave, so we'll see how that plays out. And then Francis attacking with every creature that has any power, going to keep the Stone Golem back at this point. Emp is going to decide to block the 5/5, and then still takes 5 damage to the face from that Baby Mammoth, and then that Druid. And then with 8 mana left over, Francis taking a look at some options. Looks like we're looking at the Carnage Tyrant, I believe. So a 10/8 with Trample and with Ward. So that's definitely challenging. But there is that Destroy. So the second sun deals 10 damage to every creature, and that's going to take care of every one of Francis's creatures. And then that 7/2 attacks and keep sneak because there was no blockers in play. So yeah, a nice big board clear here. And yet, just as quickly, we have Francis completely restocking the board and then getting a ton of card draw, having played that 5/5 that allows him to draw a card every time a creature is cast after that. So yeah, lots of card draw. And again, Francis sitting up there with 8 cards. Emp does attack with the 7/2, and then another board wipe. And a Day of Judgment from Emp, clearing the board again. So yeah, we've just seen 2 turns in a row where Emp has cleared the board, and yet Francis, sitting on a ton of cards, tries to play Shadow of the Past, and then Negate comes in huge, taking away 10 potential mana from Francis, and yet he still has enough mana to play his 8/6 and his 7/7 Mammoth with Trample. So huge plays by Francis here. Emp playing that, sorry, I feel like I need to remember the name of that card, and I can't. The 5/5 that gives 3 potential spells, so gets Concealing Arcana, can give every creature sneak in the future here. So that could be good, but here comes a board wipe by Francis, playing the Lava Wave to get rid of both those creatures, and then dealing 7 damage to the face of Emp. So Emp sitting at 14 life, Francis with 13. Emp sitting on that Concealing Arcana, but I don't think that's going to play at this point. Plays the Frost Titan to take care of the 8/6 and stun it for 1 turn. And then plays another Arcanus the Archmage, that's the name of that creature, and gets a Riddling Arcana. Francis still sitting on another Lava Wave, so I think we'll see that come into play again. We will. It's going to be negated. So it's gone, but there is 2 ejected in hand. Gets rid of both of M's creatures, and then swings through for 17 damage to the face, and that is enough to take round number 1 for Francis. So Francis takes round number 1. This is played as a best of 3. So we'll see what happens in game number 2. Again, it is a free-for-all, so players can bring any creature that they choose, any planeswalker that they choose to the table. There's no rules around cards that can or can't be played. So we're going to see Francis going again with the Nisa deck that won the first game, and Emp's going to change it up, and Emp's going to come in with Teferi. So Teferi often plays a lot more traps, a lot more negates, and well, it's in some ways similar to the Jace deck that we just saw Emp playing, but definitely a different flavor, a different style with Teferi here, so we'll see how this plays. So turn starts with Francis, nothing that can be played immediately, so pass the turn over to Emp, who has that Fragile Mana Gem, and is going to come in with a Stern Artificer. There is no, there is an artifact in hand, so that's going to pump up the staff. And then Francis plays the 2/2 Baby Mammoth. Emp gets that Day of Judgment in hand, so nice to have some board clear, especially playing against this Nisa deck where you definitely need it. Francis gonna swing through, and Emp is gonna allow him through with the 2/2. And then Francis playing the Spiked Ballast, I believe, or yeah, something like that, the 4/4 with Trample. Emp with 3 mana available is going to play the Teferi Accolade, which allows him to activate a trap, and he's going to activate Absorb. So if Francis plays a creature that costs more, or any spell that costs more than 3, then that will take effect, 3 or more rather. At this point, Francis with nothing in hand, so that's actually not going to activate. Francis swinging through with both. And then Francis is going to play the Tusker, and then Mana Ramp for 2. So Francis up to 5 mana early in the game. Of course, that being one of the main primary strategies of Nisa, to just get some Mana Ramp going early on. Turn shifts back over to Emp, who plays another one of those Stern Artificer to pump up one of the artifacts in the hand. And then Emp is going to activate Negate. So if Francis plays a spell, then that is going to come into effect. And it is going to come into effect right now because it's going to take care of the ejected spell. So that goes away, leaving Emp with still 2 blockers in place. We're going to see Francis attack with both creatures, and then they're going to do, straight up trades across the board. Emp's still going to take 1 damage to the face, but not a big deal. Emp sitting with 20 health, Francis with 25 at this point. Early on in this game, Nisa really hasn't gotten the same card draw that we saw at this point in the game last game. Of course, things could change a lot, but the Absorb taking out the Primeval Titan. So that's a big play, just because that was, all 7 mana that Francis had available. Emp's going to swing through for 2, and then it's going to play the second Sun's Dawn, so that's the +7, and then puts a 10 damage to everything in hand. Not deterred, Francis is going to throw down that 10-8 with Ward and Trample, so that Carnage creature. Nice big guy there. Emp, of course, trying to play, the strategy of Teferi is to try to play a few different traps, and then to have the traps go off, and once he gets 3, then he gets an extra trap in hand. So kind of the special ability of Teferi there. Turn shifts back over to Francis, and we see attacking with that 10-8. Gonna swing, they get blocked for 5, but still swing through for 5 through to the face of Emp. And then gonna do some more mana ramp here. And then I think that Trust Danny is the play for 5. And yeah, sure enough, gonna summon 2 soldier creatures. So getting some blockers available if Francis is to need them. And there is the second Sun in Emp's hand. So we'll see when that comes into play, as well as a Mist Raven to return a creature to hand. So we'll see if Mist Raven perhaps returns that 10-6 now, but the, decides to stun it, so brings out the Frost Titan. Or sorry, not the Frost Titan, the creature there, the 4-3 that stuns, uses the Pan to double its debut, so it stuns 2 creatures, so the Trostani and that 10-6 are both stunned, and then plays the 3-3. So yeah, Francis just sitting with those 1/1 chump blockers. Francis decides not to use any mana that turn, and just sits on it and lets it pass back over to Emp. And of course the creatures become unstunned now, so this coming turn Francis will have a play. And then Emp with the 5/5 that I can't ever remember, but gets the Riddlers, so the whole bunch of flyers, 3 different flyers in hand, the Riddling Arcana in the future here, so we'll see when Emp has 5 mana available, if that comes into play later on. We don't see Francis sitting on a lot of board clears, no lava waves at this point in the game, so sure that those could come out, but still has that 10 trample creature, so still going to be swinging through for a lot. Emp decides to block the 1, so interesting choice there. I would have seen Emp deciding to block one of the higher creatures where they could have at least prevented 5 of the damage, but decides to just block the 1/1 soldier. And then Francis playing the mama mammoth and another baby mammoth into hand, or onto the board there. Let's see if we're gonna see, and Emp is just shy of the board clear for second Sun, but does play Day of Judgment. So we see getting a total board clear here. Emp sitting with 9 life at this point in time, Francis with 25. And then Teferi's special power activates. And so, I don't remember the exact details of Teferi's power, but there we have the Shadows of the Past. So Francis bringing back the 5 most powerful creatures that they have had, and so there we have the 10-8 with Trample back in hand, the Primeval Titan, the Mama Mammoth, the Tostani, and the other spiky guy, so a 4/4. Emp needing to answer all 5 of those creatures, sitting with only 9 health, and just missing out on the mana needed for that second Sun. I think that second Sun would have really been the only answer at this point in the game to actually deal 10 damage to everything, and yes, Francis still sitting on a Crush of Worms that would have come out next turn. So I'm not sure what we're going to see as far as answers from Emp at this point in the game. Throwing out the Mist Raven, so does return the Mama Mammoth to hand. Of course, that the big guy, the 10-8, has Ward, so can't be tampered with at this point unless you have something that does a board clear or takes care of all the creatures on the board. And swinging through for at least 10 here. Emp is going to block both of the smaller creatures, but is still going to take and sit with 2 health at the end, so takes a whole bunch of damage. Francis sitting at 27, so still looking pretty good, and then plays another trample creature with the Mama Mammoth, and then the Titan, 8/8, that gives mana, so Francis sitting with a whole lot of available mana. Let's see if Emp has an answer here. So it does have the 10 mana available to do Second Sun, and yeah, we have to imagine that's about the only play at this point in time. So deals 10 damage to Emp and all of his, deals 10 damage to Francis and all of his creatures, and yet Francis responds with that 18/18 with trample, and sitting with only 2 life at this point in time. I really don't think, and with the 18/18 having ward, I don't think Emp is going to come up with an answer to that. So Emp is going to play the second Sun's Dawn. So it adds 7 life, bringing Emp up to 9, but really not enough that could potentially answer for or block enough of the damage, and Emp knows it. Good game we see coming out, and then Francis swinging through for 18. So yeah, good game, well played, Francis. Francis still sitting atop the Mythic leaderboard, I think primarily playing this Nisa deck that we just saw. So well played, Francis. Emp just didn't have enough answers. If you liked what you have seen today, please like or subscribe to this channel. And yeah, great job once again, antlr, Obus Form. Thank you for all the work you guys are doing. And it's been fun joining you for a commentary. Hopefully I'll jump into a few more in the future here. Have a great night. Bye.